So that was just my little educational factoid. Now the question, the Second Amendment. This is South Carolina. I don't really say anything else beyond that, but I do want to read the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Do you think the Second Amendment bestows individual rights or rights of the militia?
I think it bestows individual rights, and I think that's what it needs to be protected. And the best place to sort these issues out is at the state level. The federal government tries to create these one-size-fits-all rules, and it's, look, South Carolina is different than New York City. In Florida, when I was governor, I was the NRA Statesman of the Year one year. It was on my highlight reel where Charlton Heston gave me a gun on the stage in front of 15,000 people. That was pretty cool, to be honest with you. We have, in Florida, we believe that concealed weapons permits is a proper thing. We have 1.2 million concealed weapon holders, more than double the next state. We have right to carry. There are all sorts of rules that are appropriate for Florida, may not be appropriate in other places, but the basic right is embedded in it's a personal right. I mean, it's an individual right to bear arms, and that shouldn't be infringed by either local, state, or federal law, for sure. And this president, you know, the tendency when we have these tragedies that took place yesterday, it's just heartbreaking to see these things. But this is the broader question of rulemaking, I think is an important point to make. That whenever you see a tragedy take place, the impulse in the political system, more often than at the federal level, but also at the state level, is to do something, right? And what we end up doing lots of times is we create rules on the 99.999% of human activity that had nothing to do with the tragedy that forced the conversation about doing something. And we're taking people's rights away each time we do that, and we're not necessarily focusing on the real challenge. So if we have people that are mentally ill to the point where they go into the vortex and they don't come out, and they're hateful, and they're in isolation, and they kill people, the impulse in Washington is take personal rights away from the rest of us. And it won't solve the problem of this tragedy that is just heartbreaking to see. Maybe we ought to be more connected in our communities. Maybe we ought to have greater awareness of the mental health challenges that exist all across this country. Maybe there's a better way to deal with this than taking people's personal liberty away every time we kind of require people to do something.
And I remember right after Columbine, this is a long, long time ago, I was listening to the radio. They were talking about how in schools you're not allowed to have prayer vigils, but the second you're not allowed to pray, I should say, or have Christian or Jewish or whatever faith-based groups on these public education schools. But then the guy said, it's funny that you send a guy in there with an Uzi or a handgun to shoot a bunch of people, the first thing they do after the tragedy, of course, prayer vigil, whatever the faith-based group is. And he always said if you do that on the front end, maybe you wouldn't have those tragedies on the back end.
Yeah, we're in a difficult time in our country, and I don't think more government is necessarily the answer to this. I think we need to reconnect ourselves with everybody else. It's very sad to see, but I resist the notion, and I had this challenge as governor, because look, stuff happens. There's always a crisis, and the impulse is always to do something, and it's not necessarily the right thing to do.